Alright guys, I'm making this video just to explain how I solved the issues that my PS5 had with my LG C9, because when I did set it up and after I played it for a day, I realized there was a couple things wrong. So first, let me start off. When I was setting this up on one of the setup screens, I saw this like horizontal patch. This here, it was like a horizontal line down here that was flickering repeatedly in HDR, even in SDR. And like a couple seconds after, the TV turned black for a second, then it fixed itself for whatever reason. So I figured, okay, the issue's gone or whatever. And so one of the things you have to know is that if you have HDR enabled, this makes it outputs everything in HDR. Even if you have a game like Overwatch where it only supports SDR, it will still output in HDR. So for OLEDs, this is bad because you don't want the backlight to be at max all the time, even for games that don't really need max backlight. And so I would always see this flickering going on. I would wonder what's happening, right? Everything, and when I set this up, when this was all happening, everything was at automatic. Okay, this wasn't at -1, it was at automatic. RGB range was at automatic also. Now, firstly, the issue that solved the flickering was that you have to change the 4K video transfer rate to either -1 or -2. What does this mean? -1, if you could see here, let me point here, -1 changes it to YUV422, while -2 changes it to YUV420. HDR uses 422, so I just kept it on -1. But ever since I changed it to -1, it has stopped flickering. I'm going to include a clip of that flickering in this video because I took a short video of it happening, and you'll see what I mean. Now, the next thing that you need to adjust is RGB range. So on a C9 at least, when this was set to automatic, this automatic here, it outputs as full. And my LG, I'll show you here, if you go to the picture settings, picture options, black level, while the RGB range automatic on PS5 outputs full, the black level on the TV setting was at low, and that's a mismatch. You need to match it to full high, full PS5 high on the TV, or limited on the TV, low, limited on the PS5, low on the TV. And this was causing, because it was mismatched, it was causing crushed blacks. And I noticed this in Last of Us, I noticed it in Assassin's Creed. I noticed this all the time. And then I finally tried this out, because on the PS4, when it first introduced HDR, it had the same issue. Automatic didn't match up to the TV, so you had to manually do full to high on the PS4 to my Samsung TV. But then they updated the console firmware so that way, as long as you matched it up, it didn't matter if it was full high or low limited. So I decided to change it to limited on the console and low on the TV, and magically there was no washed out look, there was no crushed blacks. As long as you set it correspondingly between the TV and the console, it should be fine. So limited on the console, and for an LG C9 at least, you have to set it to low on the black level, or you could do full here on the PS5 and normal on the black level for the C9. And as long as it matches, you'll be fine. Another issue I had was a washed out look in HDR. So you would see these icons here, and let's see if I can focus it here. That's better. These icons would be washed out. The whole picture would be washed out, especially if you go into HDR. I would go into Borderlands and notice that the here. Is it plugged in now? I'd go into Borderlands and I noticed all the video would be just really white and washed out. It had no contrast to whatsoever. And the only thing that would fix it would be to go from in-game in Borderlands, change it from resolution mode to performance mode. Changing it to performance mode would change the picture back to normal like it should look in HDR. And then you would have to change it back to resolution mode, because in performance mode it just runs at 1080-60, whereas resolution, it's patched to run at 4K 60. Changing it back to resolution mode would make it playable at 4K 60, and it would look really contrasty like it is here. But the thing is, as soon as you turn off the PS5 and turn it back on, as soon as you load it in HDR, it would be washed out and hazy again all over the menu and everything. And the fix for that was was what I did before. The issue was the video transfer rate. It was that what I had to change it to YUV4 to 2. That was the issue. Ever since I changed it to -1, everything's worked perfectly fine. HDR looks perfect, and there's no crushed blacks or anything like that. And as you can see here, it says it supports 422 only here anyway. So, yeah. So changing it to, at least on the C9, as a 480.03 on the C9 software, changing it to -1 and RGB range and matching it correctly with the TV, that solved all my issues. Now, obviously, like I said at the beginning, if you have HDR on, it will make all your SDR games convert to HDR, and it's not real HDR, and it's gonna it's bad for your OLED because you're really not getting any benefits from it. So what you would have to do is turn off HDR, right? And it's gonna look a lot dimmer because I have I have game mode here. 25 is around 100 nits. That's what you want it to be at for SDR. Same contrast. I'll go through all the settings quickly. For SDR, 25 OLED light, you want to be in game mode. Contrast is default 85. I did a contrast test pattern on YouTube, 85. No clipped whites. It's perfect at 85. Brightness at 50. Sharpness, you want it all the way at 0. Keep sharpness at 0. Because at 0, it does not add any artificial sharpness. 50, you want to make it 50 for color. It was at 55 originally, but 50 is the neutral point. Expert controls, you want to turn off all the junk settings. Dynamic contrast should be off. Super resolution, off. Auto for color gamut, 2.2 gamma. Forget about these two, white balance and color management system. Then picture options. You want to turn off noise reduction. Turn off this. Smooth gradation, turn it off. Black level, important. You want to keep it low if your PS5 is set to limited. You want to keep it at high if your PS5 is set to normal. Any two of those combinations, it looks the same to me. I read online that technically it should be limited and low, but I looked at both. It's the same thing. But just for my peace of mind, I kept it at limited low. And that's what you want to do for SDR. So when you go from HDR to SDR, it's going to look a lot dimmer, but you just have to get used to it because you're used to the extremely high backlight in HDR. So when I set HDR back on, the icons look really contrasty. It's really nice instead of washed out like it used to be. OLED light, contrast max, brightness same as 50. Sharpness, you want to add 0. Like I said before, color 50, tint 0. Expert controls, turn off all the garbage, just like last time. Peak brightness is locked in at high, so you don't have to worry about that. Picture options, same as last time. You want black level to match. All right? So in conclusion, the flickering was solved by changing the 4K output to -1 or -2. Either works, but -1 is 422, which is what PS4 and 5 outputs to begin with in HDR. So I just keep at -1, but you could do -2 also. And keep in mind, this is just my experience with the C9. I don't know if it's different for Samsung, because my PS4 Pro worked fine with my Samsung. It automatically adjusted RGB range to match the Samsung's. This was just a problem with the C9, I guess. And secondly, to fix the washed out or crushed black look, change RGB range to limited, match it with your TV, or change it to full and match it with your TV to make sure it's matching settings. And so after those two, after changing 4K video transfer rate and RGB range, you should be good to go. So now, I want to demonstrate one other thing. I thought it was pretty cool. PS5 does support 120 hertz. As you can see here, it does say up to 120 hertz in that menu. I am currently, yeah. So for this game, for whatever reason, you have to go to save data game app settings, go to game presets. You have to make it choose performance mode. Where is my finger? You have to make it choose performance mode by default for Black Ops Cold War to actually go into 120 hertz mode. So we're gonna load it up. I'm in HDR now, but I usually turn off HDR just because it's Call of Duty. I played for long stretches of time, so I don't want to burn the screen in. So let it connect. Your TV also has to support HDMI 2.1, I believe, to get 120. This runs at 1080p though at 120 hertz because Call of Duty can't run at that frame rate unless you So if you go to graphics, 120 refresh hertz, 120 hertz refresh rate is enabled. I don't know if you could see it, but it shows enabled. It's locked. You can't change it, and ray tracing is disabled. It can only do ray tracing if you set it to 4K or if you turn off performance mode. Otherwise, it could do 4K 60 ray tracing or 120 or 1080p 120 hertz no ray tracing. And there's an easy way to confirm this. If you're on the C9, you go to all settings, you go to channels. When you select channel tuning, you press the number 1 on the remote a couple times. Where is it? 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times. You will see the frame rate here. It says 119 hertz, 120 hertz to 1080p. So yes, it supports 120 hertz. And I will tell you now, I cannot go back to 60 hertz on Call of Duty after that. So yeah. In conclusion, make sure your black levels are matching, and make sure if you do get flickering that you change it to -1 or -2, because that might solve it. So I hope I might have answered some of your questions, and if you have any questions, please ask away.